Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Rosefellow Podcast. We're really excited about who we will be presenting today. And the topic of today's podcast, we have a new member of the team, one we're really excited about, and one we kept a secret for about a week or two. So we'll finally be able to let the rabbit out of the hat and tell you all about it. Sam and I have always said that the most important aspect of our company is our team. And we pride ourselves on putting together the most incredible bunch of people to work with us at Rosefellow. And we believe and we know that we've come across such an incredible person with our new hire, with the recent announcement that we're going to be having Kristopher Parent join our team as our Vice President of Development. We're so excited because this is such an important role for the company to take us to that next level, which was always our initiative. We've never set out to be a developer of just one project a year or two. Our objectives were always to grow Rosefellow beyond the limits of the province of Quebec, into Ontario, into the United States, and beyond. So we're really, really excited that Kristopher was willing to come on board and come on the private side of real estate and help us take it to the next level.
And to grow to the level that we believe we can and hope to achieve, you do need the right infrastructure. And Kristopher joining as our Vice President of Development is really part of the core that we need to grow. I think we're very confident in saying that the team we've now assembled, we consider to be the best in our industry at every facet. I think Kristopher just came and added that last layer that we needed into our company to really push it and allow us to do what we all believe we can do. So, Kristopher, welcome aboard.
Thank you, guys. I am so excited to be part of this team. Unbelievable what you've accomplished in the last 4 years. I just cannot imagine what's going to happen in the future. Just unbelievable. I am very excited.
So, on our end, Kristopher, I mean, we've all had interactions with you. You're fairly an influential and a known figure in the local Montreal real estate community. Tell us a little bit about your path to get to where you are.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. I early on started my firm, a consulting firm, early 2000s, focusing on urban planning, landscape architecture, accompanying developers in towns in their development. Later on, merged with another leading firm, industry leading firm, to create Today, which is one of the largest consulting firms in urban planning. Left that firm. I sold that to realign my career. I also wanted to spend a lot more time with my kids. I have 4 boys. So I thought it was time. And to be honest, spending so much time representing developers, I grew the willingness and the urge to go into development, not just do the planning side and getting the permits and all that, but actually being part of it. And one thing that I felt I was missing was to understand how the other side of the table, how municipalities deal with projects, to really understand that. So the opportunity I had to go work for a town to develop major residential developments and industrial, to learn the dynamics on the other side of the table was immense in terms of how to deal with projects. And today now, going to the development side, I feel that the tool kit is full and will allow me to be very successful in bringing our projects to fruition.
I remember meeting Kristopher for the first time about 10 years ago. We were about to start working on a project together in Laval, just in the North Shore of Montreal. And I got to say, the passion you brought to a project was impressive to see. You know, I was on the developer side of things, working for a company in the North Shore, and to see someone who was not with a developer with that kind of passion was impressive. So that's one thing that caught my eye with you, Kristopher, back in the day.
I remember that. I remember that day very clearly. I had given a presentation to the Chamber of Commerce of Laval because I had led the master plan for Laval, for the downtown, new downtown of Laval. And a colleague of yours said, I want you to meet this guy, Mike, at our office. And I'd like you to do that presentation again that you did to the Chamber of Commerce. And that's when I met Mike for the first time. And when you walked in, I remember that moment, that energy, the positive vibe, that mindset was incredible. And, we talked about manifestation before. I truly believe in that. Yeah. I remember that meeting. I said, one day I will work with this guy. I will do a project.
That's amazing.
It had to happen. And moving forward today, I just find it remarkable how life works. If you would have told me 10 years ago, I would be recording a podcast with Mike Jager, Sam Tsoumas, to announce my arrival and the company that they founded together, I said, you're crazy. There's no way. I mean, life is just amazing.
It is.
And what I find really amazing too is the energy that the two of you have, the mindset that you guys have, that you were able to bring that into your company and cascade it down to everyone is tremendous. There's very little companies are able to do that. If you work at Rosefellow, and I've had the chance to meet the team and everyone, you work with someone at the finance department. They have your mindset, positive, energy. There's no problems. We'll make it work. You work with someone in the construction department. We'll make it work. We'll find a solution. We'll find a win-win for everyone. Someone in the development group, same thing. It's unbelievable. And that energy is people are attracted to that. They want to work with people with that kind of a mindset. I get asked a lot of times, and actually this was discussed at the Montreal Real Estate Forum a few months ago. I was on a panel discussing this. What are the mistakes that certain developers do when we're dealing with towns when they're trying to present their project? I think one of the mistakes sometimes is to come in with a project that's preconceived. This is what the town needs, and not taking the time to really listen to the town, to the administration, the elected officials on what are their local issues. No one knows more what's happening in the town than the town itself. What is the local population preoccupied with? Is it traffic? Is it green space? What is it? What are the main issues happening at the time? And once you learn those preoccupations, then you can bring it into your project, incorporate it, and find a win-win solution. Too often, I find developers come in and here's what you need, here's how you're going to do it, just follow us. And that creates a bad start for a partnership or a relationship. And I would say inversely, I've done projects with towns where meetings are not possible. Communication is not possible. Submit your project, we'll look at it. And that is not a good way to build a partnership either. You have to understand on both sides what are the issues and how do we make it a win-win. I think that is the piece of advice that I would give on both sides of the table.
I was always curious. Sorry, Mike. I was always curious on a town side. What are the frustrations that they see with developers? That what are the few little items that irk them?
A lot of times it's the unflexibility. To not modify their project, to listen to certain needs or preoccupations that they have, preconceived projects, and not really listening. So a lot of times, a developer will come, present a project, the town will say, well, here's the issues we have, and then 2 weeks later, the project is resubmitted, nothing's changed. So it creates a bit of a frustration, I think, on that side. And sometimes it's just to say, I wasn't able to put that into the project because of this. But what do you think of this? And to engage in that conversation. When the door is closed and there's no foot in the door or a way to open it, that creates a lot of frustration on a municipality or on a town.
I'm happy to hear that. I mean, that was a lot of the ways we wanted to do things. It's day one is to never push projects upon cities. Sit down, understand what they would look for, what we can offer, and find a win-win. At the end of the day, it's got to be a win for them. It's got to be a win for us. And today we have projects or cities where we delivered projects, and they call us saying, hey, we have this idea for another project in another location. We'd like to sit down and brainstorm with you. We want that. We want to have the opportunity to be the first call that a city makes to us. And having that flexibility on both sides, I think it is how you create a win-win for all parties.
And towns have extremely qualified professionals and people working in those organizations. They can bring a lot to the project. And another thing a town has to do is not just think about the project and how it's going to, how successful it's going to be in the first few years, but they got to think about 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. How's the population evolving? What's happening with the environment? What kind of legacy they're going to leave in the town? So it's extremely important to understand those aspects and work with those professionals at the municipal level and at the government level.
That's an interesting comment you just brought up, legacy. This is actually one of my frustrations that I find when meeting with certain cities, municipalities. Mike is 100% correct. We always approach an initial meeting with trying to understand what the city'd like. How do we make a project work together? But I do find sometimes they take too much upon themselves. When I say they, elected officials, whoever's working in the town, on legacy and trying to implement things that are not viable, whether it be financially or even make sense with the type of projects we're looking at. And unfortunately, the sense that we get is, while we can give them the pros and cons of, what they're offering and how it works in a project, many towns are not willing to move from this, and it makes certain projects unviable because of a legacy that I think they're trying to leave.
Yeah. It's a very good point. And the answer for me to that would be there needs to be an openness to understand the point of view of both sides. So if there's a policy, if there's a bylaw or a requirement on a project that just makes it unviable, not just short term, but medium term, that's something a town or a government has to hear from the experts. So everybody has their expertise. On the development side, the developers have that expertise of knowing what the market is, what's viable, what's not viable. And the town, they do have to consider what's going to be sustainable in the long term, but bringing everything together and being flexible to adapt, I think that is the key to success, and being in good faith in those conversations and of understanding the needs of both parties.
I actually have a question for you.
Yeah.
In our meetings over the last couple of months, I've heard you many times mention that industrial real estate is the most lucrative
Yes.
for towns.
Yes.
And in my thought, I would have never believed that. Truthfully, I would have always thought residential would have been. Can you explain to us why that is?
Well, Sam, think about it. The revenue from industrial, the value of the buildings is immense. So the taxation that a town brings in is very high. And in return, there's very little service to do. Take a project where you have, let's say a site that you're putting 1 million square feet of industrial buildings. If you would have gone residential, how many more of population would you add? You'd add maybe 1,000 people, a bunch of residential units. All those people have to get services at the town. So you may have to hire more people in your recreational department. You're going to hire more people at public works. You're going to hire extra staff. So the expenditure for the town is much higher than industrial. And the great thing about industrial for municipalities, and a lot of municipalities that don't have industrial, they suffer. They suffer because the pressure on the taxation goes to the residential sector. So towns that have healthy industrial sectors are able to provide, to be able to have less taxation on the residents, to provide better services, better insulation, better infrastructure. It's tremendous for a town to have an industrial tax base. Politics plays a very, very important role at different levels of government. Municipalities is probably the level of government that politicians, residents are able to be in contact with their elected officials. So their elected officials know exactly on day to day what their residents want or don't want. And what that translates to is by directions, orientations, bylaws that direct projects and have an influence on all types of projects: industrial, residential, commercial, etc. So knowing when you establish a project in a territory, you have to really understand those issues. What are those elected officials? What do they stand for? What are they representing? And what are they fighting for? So when you build your project, you're a step ahead. You understand that. So when you meet that elected official, you meet that administration, that town, you know what they're fighting for, what they're looking for, what they want to bring to their residents. Some towns, it might be, look, we need to have more revenue to be able to build better infrastructure. So for them, it's development. How quick can you do it? Other towns, it may be, look, our residents are really focused on the environment. For us, we need to have bigger green spaces on the industrial campuses. We'd like to have links with active transportation, whatever. So you have to understand what the local issues are and what the politicians are fighting for, because they're the ones directing the policies and the bylaws.
While I appreciate that, and that is definitely the key to making us better, I also find almost every meeting that we go into, especially the preliminary ones, it's almost like Mike and I have to provide almost like there's a learning curve required from elected officials on industrial, and it's incredible to hear every time we get into it how the notion of industrial for most elected officials and public servants are the archaic ones, older, lower bays, heavy smells, heavy pollutants, trucks that are all you hear is beep, beep, beep 24/7. Even something as simple as building on a speculative nature seems to flabbergast many cities and towns that we meet. These are things that we would hope we could try to change through not only this outpost, but just every time we go in, I find we have to provide a learning curve.
And it's also perception. I think of the perception of industrial distribution centers. When you bring that up to a city official, they think, oh, it's going to be one big box with 2 employees. It's not the case. That's pretty much all we do, our industrial distribution center, logistic hubs. And these logistic hubs on average have 100, 200, 300 employees. It's incredible to see. And what's even better is that these warehouses don't make any noise. There's not that many trucks. I mean, we just did one for Nespresso, which is a distribution center. It's a regional head office, and I think they got about 100 employees. They got maybe about 30 trucks in and out every day, which is nothing. And it takes convincing to different cities to have them accept the fact that a distribution center is not just one big empty box with 2 employees. It is going to bring employment. It's gonna bring up the demand for residency in those areas. It's going to bring up the demand for the retail aspect of things, because these employees, these 100, 200, 300 employees are going to go eat somewhere. They're going to want to live nearby. I think it's just an advantage to different cities.
But there's also the other aspect to it, which is, let's just take the type of industrial buildings they are worried about, which is the 2, 3, 10 employees. Those are generally automated, and they're large and they're very tall and massive buildings. Well, if I'm not mistaken, we talk about revenues and taxation. If I'm fairly certain the cities do actually impose their taxes on this automated equipment, which is 2 to 3 times the value of the base building.
Yeah. Data centers as well. I think it'll get easier, Sam, in terms of convincing towns and elected officials that industrial buildings have changed. It'll get easier as the projects evolve. And you look at the Rosefellow projects, look at the quality of the buildings, just that. Let's just take it on the architectural side, because you hear that a lot, right? Industrial buildings are ugly. They're big monolithic blocks, steel panel that rusts after 5 years. That's the old projects. But look at the buildings you guys have done. You mentioned Nespresso before. It's a beautiful, elegant building, and it's industrial. So when you give that example, you're like, oh yeah, okay, it's feasible. We can do it. And as more and more of those buildings come up, more that perception, that negative perception will be reduced. And now to being innovative about it. I've heard you, Sam, talk about bringing green spaces for the workers, bringing a great environment for the workers. That's also good for the businesses that are there. They want to retain employees, having green space, having links to active transportation. That's music to ears of municipalities. We're going to get workers. They're going to be happy. They're going to have places to exercise, green spaces, links to active transportation. That's great. And that innovative approach and that openness, that's going to set new directives and much more open approach by towns to industrial projects. It comes down to communication. It comes down to communication, partnership, and transparency. I think nothing is more frustrating for a developer to go down a path, spend a whole bunch of money on plans, professionals, submit a project, and then be told, well, that's not what we wanted, or that doesn't work. When that conversation is going to happen right at the beginning. Same inversely, same thing for a developer that may have a preconceived idea to just pitch the idea, talk to the town and hear what they say, and then develop the project. I really think that it comes down to true partnerships and development. It's not the town versus the developer. It's not the developer versus the town. It's building a partnership to build a sustainable project, a sustainable development that will last for a long time, that will be sustainable. I think it's really that comes down to that, build a partnership.
I think, having Kristopher on board to guide us as to what we should change or what we can improve on is one huge asset that we have now. I like what I hear, because I think it's something that we've always put a lot of emphasis on, which was communication. We never went into a city and pushed a project upon a city. We always wanted to get their opinion. So I think it's about taking what we've done and improving on that.
On my end, it's actually something Kristopher brought up. Mike and I, from day one, we said we would never, ram a project down any city's throats. However, going into that initial meeting with the openness, but also understanding exactly what you said, Kristopher, what are the key points that are, the pains for a city. It'd be great knowing this before going in, if employee retention or if, green space, well, automatically, meeting one, we could actually be proactive and show this. I think it also changes the dynamic and just makes us better. And exactly like Mike said, I think, Kristopher, you coming in could actually open this door for us, which we didn't have.
I think the attitude, though, the mindset at Rosefellow is conducive to that, right? That positive mindset, that mindset of there's not problems, there's solutions, we'll make it work. And that constant desire that both of you have instilled in the company to find win-win solutions for everyone. I think that is so conducive to successful projects and successful partnerships with all stakeholders, towns, investors, tenants, whatnot. That is the best mindset to have.
Well, Kristopher, allow me to thank you for having decided to join Rosefellow. Mike and I are humbled that you were willing to accept to join us. We look forward to what we can do together. Everything you've mentioned today are things that we could take away and learn from. I think everybody could learn from what you've actually said today. You come with a great reputation. We've also had the experience of working with you. You've worked on opposite side of us, so you've seen how we handle towns and municipalities on our side. I just don't see how we don't further evolve Rosefellow to get that much better. So thank you for having decided to join us.
Sam, I am so proud and so grateful to be part of this team. It's a team that aligns my personal values with the values that you've put into this organization. And I cannot wait to get started, meet our partners, meet our stakeholders, and get to know them and build amazing projects.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you all for listening in to today's podcast. We hope you took something away from this, because we obviously did. Can't wait to see you at the next one.